Good morning. On the 19th of April this year, People's Liberation Army of China announced their second set of reforms during the tenure of President Xi Jinping. The first set of reforms, they were announced in 2015. So there are a couple of questions. What is the meaning of the president's set of reforms? Then there's another question. The earlier reforms in 2015, why were they changed? Did they not meet the requirements of the modern war? Then the third question is, what do the present reforms mean for the US military, which is a peer competitor of the PLA? And finally, what do these reforms mean for the Indian military? Now, this is a slightly technical subject, but I'll try and do my best to simplify it. So let me start with the present set of reforms. Three things have happened in these reforms. One, a new arm has been created which is to be called Information Support Force. So Information Support Force is new, and what will it look after? It will look after the electromagnetic spectrum, which is electronic fire, electronic warfare, and it will be responsible for the wired and the wireless networks, because now the whole battle space will be digitized. So it will be responsible for that. Responsible in the sense, responsible for the information that passes through the wired and the wireless networks, and it will take the help from the Space Force as well as the Cyber Force. What this means, I will explain in a while, but this is extremely significant. So this is one thing that has happened. The second thing what has happened is, in the earlier reforms of 2015, the PLA had created a maverick organization called Strategic Support Force. Now that organization has been demolished, and the constituents of that organization, for example, cyber and space, they have been made into independent arms. So what we have is Aerospace Force, which is really looking after space, and then there is Cyber Force, which is looking after cyber. So this is the second thing that has happened. Now, let me explain this, why there was a need to do this. The need to do this is that Xi Jinping, as the Commander-in-Chief of the PLA, in fact, since 1 year, these reports were coming, and he was saying this consistently to the PLA, that these are the two services, two forces, which is cyber as well as space. They need to be raised to the strategic level. Strategic level means that these are those non-kinetic domains to be raised at the strategic level of nuclear weapons. Now the big difference here is that while nuclear weapons are not usable, they are supposed to be for deterrence. Both cyber as well as space, they are usable. So this is what needed to be done, and now they have made this into an independent two arms. Now the third thing what has happened is that an organization, in fact it's a department, which is called the Political Work Department. This has been strengthened further. When I say strengthened, as I said, of the 2015 reform, that Strategic Support Force, the constituents of that Strategic Support Force were cyber, as I said, has become now an independent arm, electromagnetic spectrum, which has now gone to Information Support Force, then space has become an independent arm, and there was the fourth one, which was psychological operation, that has been merged with the Political Work Department. Because it is a slightly technical subject, so let me just go over these three things before explaining them further. So as I said, Information Support Force has been created. Then you have Aerospace Force, Cyberspace Force, and the Political Works Department has been strengthened. Therefore, as far as the structure of the PLA is concerned, what they have today is this Department of Political Workforce. In fact, they have 15 departments, and then they have commissions, This is one of them. I have just picked up one because it is relevant to our discussion. Otherwise, I would highly recommend that the Indian military leadership and the senior people, they really dwell upon, they really study the other 14 also, because they are significant. But here I am only talking of the political workforce. So you have one department, then you have 4 services, and you have 4 arms. This is roughly the modern warfare battle space that we are looking of and that I wish to discuss. When I say 4 services, those 4 services are, they are Army, Air Force, Navy and Rocket Force. That means they are services, they have their organic rank and file. Rocket Force is the latest one of the PLA, and according to media report, it has something like 150,000 troops. So these are services. Then you have 4 arms. The arms are, as I said, Aerospace Force, Cyber Force, Information Support Force, and the 4th one is Joint Logistics Support Force. Now all these things, they report directly to the Central Military Commission, which is the highest policy making body of the PLA. Now the difference is, as far as services are concerned, the 4 services, when they interact at a theater level. That means the army, if it is going, as you know, we are also aware that the PLA now has 5 theaters. It has Western Theatre, which faces India. It has Southern Theatre, Eastern Theatre, Northern Theatre and Central Theatre. So all the services, these 4 services, Army, Air Force, Navy, Rocket Force, they interact straight away at the theatre level. That means directly they would interact with the Western Theatre Command facing India. As far as the arms are concerned, the 4 arms that I spoke about, while they also report to the Central Military Commission, but they can be broken down to the lowest formation. They can be part of them, as well as have a strategic role. As I mentioned, that 2 of them, Aerospace Force, which is space, and cyber, will have a strategic role also, but they can be broken down into smaller units to be part of the theatre, as small as going to the lowest level. What they have is a combined arms battalion. So this is in a nutshell, I have tried to explain what exactly has happened. Now let me take up and explain each of these further, because it is significant. Now you see, as far as PLA is concerned, PLA can fight 4 types of wars. One is called the information war. Then you have a mechanized war. Then you have an informatized war, and then you have an intelligence-sized war. Let's start with the information war. Information war is in the non-kinetic domain. It is what we call the gray zone operations. What has under it is the space, it has under it the cyber. That means this affects whole of nation. And the information war is the responsibility of the political works department. That means we are talking of gray zone operation. It can include anything. In fact, there are 2 thinkers of 2 colonels of the PLA who had also mentioned about unrestricted war. That means your economy, even as they negotiate, they can be flexing muscles. All this is part of gray zone operation, and what goes on the line of actual control today for the last 4 years is all gray zone operation, including the Galwan crisis was gray zone operation, because it was below the threshold of war. Not a single shot was fired by either side. So this is what it is. And as when you talk of this gray zone, now we are talking of mind games. This is what is called mind games also, and they have as part of this under the political work department what they call the 3 warfare strategy. Many would have heard of it, which includes the legal warfare, That means they make a case. For example, as far as India is concerned, they say that Arunachal Pradesh is South Tibet, belongs to China. So they have made a case, a legal case. The legal case is that today 62 places in Arunachal Pradesh, they have been given Tibetan names by them and they claim this whole area. Now the Indian government can keep talking that, look, we don't recognize. It is not for you that they are doing it for their own people. So first they make a legal case, then they build up their own more of their domestic public opinion. They make a case that, look, the Indians are the aggressors. Because by way of strategy, right from Mao Zedong's time, the PLA always says it fights in self-defense. PLA is never the aggressor. So they make up the public opinion case, and then the third element of the three warfare is psychological war, which includes everything: misinformation, disinformation, synthetic reality, deep fakes. All this is under the political works department. So this is a very big thing, information war. And this is how they work the whole thing. Now, political work department has another very important task. And that task is political education. What this means is, we know that the PLA is responsible to the party. Hence, the PLA should have 100% loyalty to the party. So for that, what they have is, right from top to the lowest level of a combined battalions, combined arms battalions, where you have political teams, they have commissars at all the formation level, all the levels of war. And many may not know that in the PLA, you have an operational stream and you have a political stream. And for any promotion from one rank to another, there is 50% weightage of both. That means politically you have to be you must display total loyalty to the party, and 50% weightage you get because of your competence, professional competence. So this is that big thing which comes in information warfare. And this information warfare, the PLA, the Chinese can fight anytime, and they are fighting against India, even as they talk of peace, even as our trade today is $130 billion annually, despite our problems at the LAC. This is information war. It is of great significance. Now, next I want to talk about is that we are aware that the PLA is capable of fighting in 6 domains of war. Now, this is something new that I want to talk about in my video. This is what I've been thinking. And there are a lot of senior analysts across the world. I wrote this in my book, The Last War, and they have appreciated that. So I thought I'll share it with the viewers also here. The PLA, as we are aware, it has 6 domains of war. What are these? It is land, air, sea, cyber, electromagnetic spectrum, and space. Now, I see these 6 domains. What is a domain? Domain is very distinct from a force multiplier. Domain basically means that on land, in air, in cyber, electromagnetic spectrum, the PLA has a capability to combat, contest, and to contain and constrain a peer competitor like the US military. They are not, they're not looking at the Indian military at all. Why? I'll just come to in my last segment. So they have 6 domains. Now they have perhaps divided this into 4 battle spaces. And those battle spaces are physical battle space, where obviously you have land, air, sea, space. They are physical. Then you have virtual battle space. which is cyber and electromagnetic spectrum. I'll pause here to explain this virtual battle space. This is a very important battle space with these two domains for the modern war. And the reason for that is that cyber is important. What is cyber? Because the data passes through that, through cyber. Data, your information goes through that. Now, if you don't get the information on the land domain or the sea domain or the air domain, what sort of operation you do? You are nothing. You can't do anything. Therefore, cyber is critical because it contains all the physical, it dominates the physical domains. And electromagnetic spectrum, as everybody is aware, this is about 7 waves, including the light also, without which nothing happens. So these should be seen as a continuum. For example, if you put a malware, if you put a software weapon in cyberspace, you look for a vulnerability, you put it there, it travels in the cyberspace, goes through the wired, goes through the wireless networks, the electronics at the speed of light. So what is that? The moment it comes to the wireless, now it is using electromagnetic spectrum. Some portion, some wave of the like for example, radio waves are being used. So there is a continuum between the cyber and the electromagnetic spectrum. You can take this further to space even, because all this can travel to the space as well. So this is the continuum. So when we talk of the virtual space, without a superiority, without a capability, I'm not saying that you dominate, because here I'm talking about two peer competitors like PLA and the US military. Because all these reforms are about US military, not about the Indian military. So if either side is unable to have a good control, or they are not able to, I will explain, it's very difficult to have it. If they are unable to do that, then the chances of their winning war, they become bleak. In other words, to say that the US military can beat the PLA or the PLA can beat the US military, you need war control, certain war control, and this is that domain, the virtual battle space. Because this is where information will either be available or it will not be available to you. So this is the second battle space. The third battle space is the information battle space, what I call. Information battle space, as I said, is about wired and wireless networks. Why this has become important is because the modern war, as far as these two competitors are concerned, artificial intelligence, which was being used in a combat support role. Combat support role is your maintenance, is your logistics, is your training, all type of training, simulation, exercises, war games, then in your battle damage assessments, then your debriefing, all things you see, the backdoor things or the combat support things. That part is over. Now artificial intelligence is being used in combat. And when you use AI in combat, what you are looking at is an entirely different ballgame. Two big things are happening. The first thing is that the tempo of war has got accelerated. What this means is that when you have artificial intelligence, you see, what is war? When we talk of the actual combat in a digitized battlefield, it is about sensor to shooter. Today you have got ubiquitous sensors, a whole lot of sensors in thousands, which are collecting data. Now you have two options. One option is that you bring the data to a central point, let's say a central cloud, for your processing, so that the data then becomes information, and then from that information you can get relevant intelligence, and you can then decide what are my options. Then you can suggest a suitable shooter. Should I use a gun? Should I use an aircraft? Should I use a missile? All this takes time. Between two competitors, they will be looking at a possibility of keeping the kill chain to closing it faster than the other side. Kill chain is about 3 elements. Kill chain is how fast you get the information. What I said, the sensors. From all the sensors, data to be converted into information. That is one. Then that information coming to the command post, where the command then decides, all right, and then AI when it goes in the networks of the command, which is your systems, then it can give you even options to the commander that look, based on this, these are your options. Then the commander chooses the option, and then the commander decides, okay, which is my best shooter that I need to now assign the task of neutralizing or whatever effect is required on the target. This is the kill chain, 3-way process. And at the heart of kill chain is networks. What the PLA calls operational systems. What are operational systems? Operational systems is from sensor, you take that data or information and you bring that through the network, through the medium. Medium is the software network. Through the medium to the command post, and then from command post take the decision and send it through the software medium to the shooter and give the shooter the orders. So operational systems, these networks. So one thing that has happened is, if you want to close your kill chain faster, because AI has come in combat, what that means is you have to take certain measures. For example, and both the militaries today have been spending a lot of money, invested a lot of time and energy in this, what I am coming to now. This is called edge computing. That means instead of the data getting processed in a central cloud, as I said, it is processed at the sensor itself. That means at the sensor you provide processing, and at the sensor you have communications, and that finally from all the sensors, and you get the information, real information, actionable information at the command post. So that means artificial intelligence will be there in all these domains, and it will hasten up the whole thing. So if not autonomy, we are talking of automation. Now what that means is that there will be certain things which the human will not be able to control, will not be in the loop. For example, in air defense, because things will happen at the speed of light, or in cyber, or in electronic fires. Sorry, not in air defense, in electronic fires and cyber, because they move at the speed of light. So there will be automation. From automation we are moving towards autonomy. So therefore, one thing that will happen is, once AI comes in combat, that means the networks have to be secure. Secure from what? Secure from two things. When your data passes through wired or wireless, the two things are cyber. One is cyber. Cyber destroys data, and electronic warfare, it destroys the wave, like I said, the radio wave that carries the data. They complement one another. You see? So the software, if both the sides have to be sure to a certain extent, this is called adversarial attacks. That means there will be attack from both sides on the networks. In fact, nobody will own the networks. The networks that we know today will not be there, because AI-backed cyber agents will be there on both sides. And all this is happening now. So this is one, they have to be secured. Second thing, what is happening is because of AI in combat, the command and control progressively, it will pass on from human commanders to robots. It is already there in machines like your command post, but it will go on to the robots. That means today we already have a situation where if you have 5 robots, they can be controlled by a cloud, and the cloud is commanded by a human commander. You know, something like human command and machine control, robot control. We already have that. Now, when you look at that, again, what do you want? You want security of your networks. Because if the networks are not secure, first of all, please understand that as far as robots are concerned, we are nowhere close to the Terminator stage at all, where there will be total autonomy, for the simple reason, I have read a lot of literature. It is very encouraging. The large language models have come in, multimodals have come in, all this is fine. I still fail to understand, in fact, I must check with some expert, AI engineer who keep talking of generative AI. I believe that a key thing will be consciousness. While you can instill intelligence, a very high degree of intelligence in the robot, consciousness is about awareness of your surrounding, awareness of your thoughts, awareness of your emotions. I do not believe or think it will be possible by this, that wave of, generative AI that is happening. I do not think something else will need to be done, because after all, brain is too complex. But I don't want to digress from this main topic. So the key thing is, at best, what we are looking at is human command and machine control and networks. Without networks, nothing will happen. And therefore, the need of the information support force, period. Now, I will revisit what I said about information support force. It will command, it will have under its electromagnetic spectrum, and it will look after the electronic warfare, and it will work very closely with cyber and space, what I explained, that virtual continue. So both sides have to be very careful, because the electromagnetic spectrum will be constrained for both sides. I'm talking about peer competitors. In fact, what we are looking at is, and this is happening, as I said, the normal networks will not work. We are looking at cloud. And even in cloud also, we are looking at small clouds. What is also being called a fog cloud, where there will be communication and data and processing available there only, because smaller the cloud, less chances of cyber attacks. Cyber is pervasive. As we move towards artificial intelligence, this generative AI, cyber will be there in, any vulnerability. Even when two people talk, you create a vulnerability. So this is the way, and this is the reason why information support force has been created. And the fourth, and as I said, independent role for the aerospace force and the cyber force that I've explained already. So this is the information battle space, the third one. So what I have said till now is the physical battle space, the virtual battle space, which is the key to the physical battle space. And now I have said is the information battle space, which is critical for the modern war to move towards jointness, what is called the joint integrated operations, where you integrate all these domains and then move to intelligence-sized war, which is what two things I said, that to close the kill chain early, as well as transition from humans to robots. And the fourth battle space is the cognition battle space. cognition battle space I've already mentioned is the responsibility of the public work department. I've explained this. As well as if you see the doctrine of the PLA, the doctrine for war, it is systems destruction warfare. They are not looking at repression at all. They are basically looking at destroying your systems. That means your communication hubs, your networks, that they will destroy. So that you are blinded of information, it is not available to you. And when you don't have information or you have very sparse information, I don't have to explain, that can lead to mayhem in the battlefield as well as what we call command breakdown. So this is these are the four battle spaces which are relevant now to their war, which is the informatized war and the intelligencized war, and hence the need for this. Now the second question that comes is, what happened to the reforms which were done in 2015 where they created this maverick organization called Strategic Support Force? Well, in my assessment, look, I don't go in politics because I heard some American analysts say that, look, there were corruption charges. Not going that way at all. I am looking at pure combat and operations. So in my sense, that was required at that time. Why it was required is because at that time, all these three things, very important things, and the fourth also, which is your cyber, your electromagnetic spectrum and space. As I said, this is the continuum, and psychological operation, which is supposed to now take it to the town, that look, your communications are gone. So they were all there. That means it was possible for 8 years for the PLA to do exercises in the theatre by having all these components as whole, as one. So they had so much of experience that today, when they have been broken into independent arms, the cyber fellows are there with the lowest, what I said, the CAB, combat combined armed battalions or combined armed brigades. They are there at the lowest level, so they know exactly how it functions. So in my assessment, even that was required. So this is the significance, which is huge, of these present set of reforms. We have to understand where the warfare is going. Now I come to the Indian military, and this is important. And I must say it is disappointing and embarrassing also, because for the last 4 years the PLA has been sitting there, occupying our territory in East Ladakh. And I dare say that our military leadership still has not got the time or the inclination to study all these things. They have the resources, but they simply don't have the inclination to do that. So we are still, we means Indian Army, Indian military, we are still at what is called that mechanized war. We are still at that level of mechanized war, which is way below the informatized and the intelligence-side war. In the mechanized war, we have core competencies, we have three physical, only the physical battle space is there, nothing else. Virtual is not there, nothing is there. So we have the physical, land, air, sea. And obviously now our CDS wants, theatres. What will they do? Because the point is, they have, each service has their core competency. They are fighting on the war concept of the 80s, 1980s. They've not even bothered to study and to update that. And even the individual services are not even networked. And in fact, recently I heard, there was a report, there is some Lieutenant General Vipul Singhal from the Integrated Defence Headquarters, who at a brainstorming session happened where he spoke about how we can bring artificial intelligence, cyber domains into our training framework. Arey Baba, when you don't even have the domains, what are you bringing? And artificial intelligence is the technology of technologies. It is not a domain. Cyber is a domain. How are you clubbing these two together? I don't really want to go more into this, but it is about time, and this is only possible once the Indian military leadership understands that what they are up against. They are up against a military which is at the cutting edge of modern warfare. And I have already explained the significance of this. I hope it helps. Thank you.